Podcast. Hey, we've got a great show. We've brought in Max Hawthorne to talk about his brand new book, Monsters and Marine Mysteries. So, this is going to be a fantastic interview. We're looking forward to this. I hope everybody enjoys it. We're going to get to the intro here, and then we'll see you in just a second. Welcome to the Three Beards Podcast. My name is Craig, along with Austin and Chris.
Passed to a new generation of Americans born in this century.
Let me out.
I'm afraid that is right.
Then live to send the innocent to their death? Is this justice and honor in Massachusetts colony?
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the show. We have got with us Mark Eddy. He is joining us to help us out as well with this one. Mark, how are you, sir?
Fine. Thanks for thinking I know something.
No, well, always. And so right here we got him. So at this time we are also bringing in. He's got a beard. Max Hawthorne, how are you, sir?
Oh God. Well, you said you were shy of beard tonight, so I thought I'd step up a little bit.
Well, we appreciate it. Yeah, I know.
I bought this just for your show.
Okay. We're honored. We're
honored.
I don't have the haggard wig on, thank God. All right, this thing's got to come on 1 second.
That's it. So we got
Not
here.
Exactly expensive.
So we brought you on to talk about your brand new book that you teased with us last time, but you wouldn't give us an actual title or anything. But Monsters and Marine Mysteries, your latest one. So what was the inspiration for you really behind this one? I mean, was it one individual story that really hit you and you're like, I got to make a book about this? Or was it just after a few of these instances happened, you're like, this is definitely a book?
Well, over the course of writing the Cronus Rising series, my regular novels, I'd done tons of research on marine life. And as I did that, I kept coming across information and sightings about everything from extant mosasaurs to Sasquatch, obviously, and everything in between. I had actually, over the course of my life, I had a couple of sightings myself, which are actually detailed in the book. But I ended up talking to more and more people that had seen incredible things, like the UK guy that saw the Corner Cruise monster, which, from his description, he believes, and I believe, was a mosasaur 100 feet in length. So when I started having all these blog posts about these sightings and such, that after a while I was like, I'm on the verge of a book here. Yep. So then I started actually actively seeking out people, and I met and interviewed some amazing people for the book. I mean, people that had seen things that nobody knew about, that had been forgotten, stuff from the 70s even. Nobody even knew these guys were still alive. Okay. And some sightings that are historical sightings that it turns out were wrong. And I got to talk to the source, somebody who was actually attacked by one of these sea creatures, and I got all the details. So everything it's just been a great thing. There's a lot of great data in there, a lot of great sightings, and it's very compelling that there are things out there that we haven't seen yet, or if we have, we're not around to tell about it.
I'm waiting on Amazon. You can purchase this book on Amazon.com right now, which mine is, and it is on its way here. It'll be here tomorrow. For everybody, we aren't as prepared as you normally are for some of these book interviews because this one just got released and we had a cancellation. And I reached out to Max. I'm like, I've got a
We'll
perfect
plug him in.
opportunity. If you could come on, and you graciously said yes. For some reason we
and I said
haven't
I
scared
wouldn't
you
shave.
off.
And I didn't shave. Well,
I know
now I
Mark.
did.
Mark didn't shave for you either. Yeah,
I just can't grow a beard.
Well, Craig, I've got your ARC copy of Monsters and Marine Mysteries right here. So this bad
awesome.
boy will be in the mail for you. Okay.
Awesome.
And you want to take good care of this, believe me, because only like a half dozen of these were ever printed.
Woo. That's going to sit on the shelf.
And it's going to be signed. That adds at least 5 cents to the value.
Oh my God.
Hey, if you can't make fun of yourself, you can't make fun of other people. So I always make fun of myself.
No, it's we one of those. I mean, every time we've had you on here, it's fantastic interviews. I mean, the Kronos Rising books are fantastic. I just read Plague and Diablo. And like I said, I really like those because the last time you told us that we needed to read those, and so I made sure I cracked into those, and that was. I got those on Kindle, but this one I wanted to actually have a physical copy, but they're like, the soonest we can get it to you is Thursday. So I'm like, but I know Mark down there has done some studious, speed reading of a couple chapters, so that way he could get.
Olaf, I'm so sorry. I have to kill this cat. 1 second.
Well, yeah.
We got a cat murder. Kill the cat.
His two beloved cats. Most of the time, beloved.
Well, while we're waiting for Max to return, okay, there we go.
There it is.
Yeah, there's some really neat info. Hopefully, we'll have a chance to get started on some of the fascinating information in this book.
Oh yeah.
I'm so sorry, guys. He likes to climb onto my Bravia television that's on the wall and tries to use it to jump onto my fossil display case, and it's a disaster waiting to happen. And I can't. You want me yelling and screaming at him, so I had to throw him out.
No, yeah, no. I forgot to introduce you as the owner of 2 Siberian cats. Yeah. I just. While we're talking about your cats, I absolutely love Ava's new nickname too, Chunky Cheese. That one.
Oh. Copyright Ava Hawthorne, 2021, all rights reserved.
Yep. That is just chunky. Oh, man. And then just kind of a real random topic. For anybody that hasn't seen it, I absolutely recommend you go watch Resident Alien on Sci-Fi. It is a fantastic show. There is a little kid that somehow, when they say on the show, names, when they give that little disclaimer about, fictitious, they don't, any resemblance to, there's a little boy in there whose name is Max Hawthorne.
I'm telling you, I felt like a dad all of a sudden. Again, the only thing I can think of, since obviously it's not a common name and I'm fairly well known, is there must be somebody, a screenwriter there that has read some of the books or something like that. But yeah, it was funny because I'm sitting there and she's like, because I watched the show, and the nurse goes, "Well, what about Max Hawthorne?" I'm like, "Huh."
Yeah,
what?
Exactly.
So very funny. It is a great show. I enjoy it.
Yeah, it is. It is. For anybody that hasn't seen it, you definitely want to see it. And so that's one. But back to the book. So this one, it was one of the things like you mentioned to me, and you also mentioned just here in the intro, that was really fascinating, was that Carnival Cruise sighting. And that one, it was one, because you always have, in these sightings, you always have one, maybe a couple people that say this, but when you have several people that see the same thing, and I can't remember how many, was there a lot of photographs and footage of this?
There was a half dozen people that saw it, and the employee of the cruise line took a picture of the creature as it veered off there and started heading away from the ship. It was like pacing them from the looks of things. And after a while, it lost interest, and then it turned off. And he took a picture of it as it was turning away. And then he got into a bit of a Donnybrook in the next port of call, and his phone went bye-bye. So that's why I had made it a point when I talked about this in an interview, because he figures there's other people on that ship. It was the Carnival Breeze. This is back in 2014, Gulf of Mexico. So if anybody hears this and you took a picture of some strange creature swimming beside your cruise liner, hit me up, because I'd love to see those photos.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because it's one of those. Now, just based off the size, I mean, is that where you're going with, almost like proof of, this has got to be, a really good chance of having as one of these creatures? Because I know with how little we've explored the oceans, I mean, the possibility of something like this, slipping by, is a real possibility.
Well, Paul is the guy's name that I interviewed for it, and based on his description, I mean, he said he only saw the head, neck, and upper back of the animal, because the rest of it was like near the surface to breathe, and the rest of it was kind of draped down, like a croc does when it comes up like that. It doesn't expose all of itself, you know.
Yep.
But and that portion alone was at least 50 feet long. So
Jeez.
it was immense.
Wow.
And he was able to get that size reference because they have these 37-foot lifeboats that were directly below there, but also they have drills where they're in the water. And from his position on the top deck there, he could see the lifeboats down there. So he knew what 37 feet was. And this thing was just that portion was much, much bigger, 1.5 times the size of one of those boats. So
Wow.
yeah, he had some impressive details in his description. He said it was like a submarine coming up. You could see the water streaming off its back, and it was so, look, this thing was massive, mate. I'm
That's right.
telling you, it was like the top predator out there. This could eat a white shark and still be hungry.
Now,
That's
what's the possibility that, because, one of those, obviously not seeing it, has anybody thrown out the thing? Well, most likely it was just a whale, because you always have the naysayers that, say that, but it's just, but with your thing, typically whales don't act in that behavior, going right against, like right next to a cruise line like that.
It was very uncetacean-like. I know that's not a word, but in terms of its behavior,
It is now.
everything. The first thing is that it was bigger than a whale, as he put it. And he'd seen whales beside the ship and by the bow, and dolphins and whale sharks and all this stuff. He'd been working on these ships and other ships for many years. So he had a lot of experience with that. I showed him photos of every possible whale I could think of: beaked whales, sperm whales, blue whales, whale sharks, basking sharks, and he was like, no, mate, no, this stuff. But the thing that struck me as odd was that first thing is that when it came up for air, a whale spouts. You know what I mean? Like they hold compressed water vapor in their lungs. When they come up, it's loud. You could hear it from a mile away. It's like this big cone of compressed vapor comes out like that, makes a lot of noise. This thing didn't do that. He said when it came up for air, the water all around its head just turned white, which of course would be millions of tiny bubbles because its head was so big that they look tiny. Just turning the water white all around it. It inhaled, and then it put its head and neck back under, but its back was still just breaking the surface. And when I was doing my research, I looked at like how crocodilians and sea turtles surface, and that's what they do. They get near the surface and they start to release bubbles of air. They don't blow like a whale does. There's no spout, see? So that suggests a reptile just to begin with. It was also very fast because the cruise line's average speed is like 22 miles an hour, and this thing was able to keep pace with it with no problem. I thought at first it might have been a squid because there are sightings of immense squid, but he's like, no. He told me flat out that, and it breathed. You know what I mean? So, and also he said the head looked like that, a head of an immense alligator. So it was, something to see. I wish I'd seen it.
Well, right there, you're already in your wheelhouse. You're like, oh my God, Cronus Rising is real.
Well, he asked me if I thought it was a pliosaur, and I didn't, because the way it was moving, the water around it was like bubbling up or churning a bit, but he never saw flippers that were propelling it, which suggests that it was propelled by a caudal fin, like an alligator with its tail back and forth, which again sounds mosasaur-like, because whatever was propelling it was beneath the surface, draped down, and it wasn't visible. So, but mosasaurs got a lot bigger than people think. I personally, right now, I'm in possession, own a fossil that is about to prove that mosasaurs grew to at least 85 feet in length. And I'm not kidding. People have been like, oh, there's no record of that or this and that. That means nothing. We know only about 3% of all species that ever existed from the fossil record is the estimate. 3%. That means 97% are lost and forgotten with no fossils. And a lot of big, like pliosaurs, for example, are known from a fragmentary portion of one skeleton, some of them, or even occasionally just a single bone or something like that. See, and that's insane because if you think about it, if these animals were as, let's say, or mosasaurs, for example, were as common as sperm whales, which at one point were there several 100,000 of them, and for millions of years there were hundreds of thousands of these animals living their lives at any given moment, a couple 100,000 of them, and they're all gone, and we have fossils from 1, 2, it's insane. So anyway, point being though, yeah, I'm sitting on it, and the genus, is Prognathodon, and this is going to be proven to be the largest mosasaur species, period, and it is also going to be potentially the largest marine predator, period, which is very exciting stuff.
Oh, well, yeah. I love when you're posting, Facebook, you can go, you can see it's marine, it's the Monsters and Marine Mysteries, I think is what you changed the page to.
The group is Max Hawthorne's Monsters and Marine Mysteries, but there's also the Cronus Rising novel series is the main fan page. The one I frequent most, though, is Monsters and Marine Mysteries, because it's
because obviously
you can only do so much. So
and I love it because through your stuff, you're showing different pictures that you have of your fossils too, and that's what I said. It's like you always have these things. I'm like, oh God, look at the size of that. Just when you bring this tooth, I think, was it you that posted that one with a tooth comparison?
About a week or two back, I posted a couple of ginormous Prognathodon crowns, tooth crowns that I own, and this wasn't to show how big the giant one was, but this is to show people that just from that alone, there's proof that Prognathodon grew to 50 feet. Just from those fossils, just from those teeth.
Wow.
See? And in the books, they say 10 meters, 12 meters, 40 feet. No. And these aren't even the biggest teeth. See? So, right there, that puts it at the top tier of known mosasaurs in terms of size. But what I got coming is going to blow people away. So, you can forget the Megalodon shark is going to be wearing a dress. No offense.
Pretty much. I was just showing some of the pictures that you have here on your site, chronosrising.com, of this.
Oh, that's a drawing that actually the witness did. He drew that sketch of the thing swimming next to the ship. He's, not an artist, obviously, but I'm going to get beat up now. Watch.
Yeah, Max, go ahead, Chris.
So did he say exactly what happened to his phone? I know that had to be the worst day of his life.
He said there was a bit of a scrap in a bar, and things happen. So I don't know if he had to leave the bar suddenly and his phone was left behind. If it was fell out of his pocket and got stepped on and crushed. I have no idea. All I know is he said to me that something happened in a bar, and and all this stuff. He's a great guy. I love him to death. But it's I wish I had that photo.
Wish we had cloud storage then.
I'm sorry?
I said I wish we had cloud storage then. You store it to the cloud and you can always go back and get it.
Yeah. Well, this was 2014, so 7 years ago. I don't think they had that back then, did they? No.
I think it was just really starting to really come into use. It wasn't really prevalent like it was now, where you basically get it and everything. It's just, you're like, how did I save 17 copies to whole different locations? I just downloaded the picture now, and it's automatically saves everywhere. Google's already thought ahead of what you're going to do with this picture and has already came up with something for you. It's
scary.
I know. I love the ones where, now, just because I did this, I'm going to get nothing but Amazon ads for your book, which you're going to love. So,
which is great. Everyone should do that.
Everybody click. When you get the Amazon ad for Chronos Rising or for the Monsters and Marine Mysteries, just click it. Mm-hmm. Drive clicks. Yeah,
pays the bills.
Yeah. So just going through here. Now, Mark, you had a question.
Yeah. Max, you we just saw the drawing of an eyewitness's recollection of the Carnival Cruise monster. You cover a 1924 accounts, eyewitness account of a decaying carcass being eaten by a bunch of critters. Viking reports. If we look at this long time span, I'm sure Olaf the Viking, Orcat, saw something. Are there reports
of creatures being sighted like this?
Yeah. Do you find what was documented, reliable, and you are kind of figuring out, okay, considering the latitude, if it's Vikings, by Norway or so, they most likely would have seen this kind of shark eating, like orca eating, salmon or something like that. Do you find that these documented accounts are actually pretty reliable? The nine-headed serpent's a little embellishment, but do you really think they saw something?
Well, I know there are reports that go back a long time from Russian whalers that have seen 100-foot long creatures that match this description. Usually they're like a dark brownish or something, and then lighter, like yellowish underneath, that they've seen harassing pods of whales. And I believe that's because the animal is looking to get its hands on a calf, something that it could swallow whole. So it wants to get something small enough, because their teeth aren't always, depending on species, aren't designed to rip and take giant chunks out or tear prey apart. Some mosasaurs are, some aren't. So if it's something more like a Tylosaurus, where it's more of a piscivore, it would be looking to get its hands on a calf, something 15, 20 feet long, that it could manage to gulp down in one piece. So that would make sense for it to be harassing whales. But I think the most compelling historical documentation of this would be the Monongahela incident, which took place in the 1800s, where a whaling vessel actually, according to them in the captain's log, harpooned and killed one of these animals. I believe it was 103 feet long was the measurements. They took all these detailed measurements of the carcass, how many teeth it had. They detailed the fact that it had a tongue like a snake, which was very compelling, because now we believe that they had that. And what I found the most compelling was, well, two things. When they cut it open, they found that it had lungs, and one lung was longer than the other, which is present in some species of snake, and mosasaurs are closely related to snakes, especially boids. But also, they described its tail as having a flat, like caudal fin back there, flat, firm cartilage at the end, which is like what we know now. They had hypocursal tails, and nobody knew this in the 1800s. This came out just in the last 10 years or so, that some species of mosasaur had tails like sharks, but inverted. So these guys actually describe this, and that's very compelling, because how would they possibly know that if they didn't kill and butcher and process this animal like they would a whale? So,
yeah, well, I'm just, as you're describing that, we go, doesn't that kind of in a way lend so much more validity to all the reports of the sailors that would claim to see sea serpents?
Oh, definitely.
The images, because, yeah, go ahead.
And you wouldn't see like an animal like that, since it's not going up and going and saying, here I am with a giant spout. I mean, some whale spouts are 20, 30 feet high. You could see them, from the horizon. These things are much stealthier. So if they still exist, and it's possible they do, an animal like that is going to be much stealthier. It's just going to come up. All you're going to see is a hump of its back or something at most, and you'll think, oh, that was a whale. I mean, the only reason these guys on the ship saw it is they were 200 feet in the air looking straight down at it, and he only saw it because people called him over and said, hey, what kind of animal is that? Because they didn't know. So.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah. No, go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, and it's somewhat related to your answer was what, like the 1870s, 20,000 Leagues came out, and the squid, huge squid attacked the Nautilus.
Mm-hmm.
And in your book, you're saying that photos and videos just came out of some of these almost probably the same creatures that Jules Verne was writing about 150 years ago. These photos were just taken, what, 10, 15 years ago. They're fairly recent, the technology that's been invented. It just seems like what is being documented now is actually pretty accurate to what
Compared
was
to what Jules Verne came up with?
Well, just what Blackbeard and some of the other sailors, and all these other people, Columbus, all the people that saw kept a captain's log.
Mm-hmm.
It,
There's been many captain's logs. In fact, I entered a bunch of them in the book when I was discussing things like how there appears to be a species of ginormous, I know it's not a real word, but maybe it is now, sea turtle out there. And I believe that this species of mega turtle, as I call it, which was filmed by a gentleman named Gary LaMotta back in 1969, is actually the super predator, the creature that chased down an 8-shark alpha in the Bremer Canyon of Australia years back. So when I was researching that, I looked for historical sightings, and I found oodles of them. I put a handful in the book, but there was one which I think people have always been mistaken about this historical sighting, and I don't remember the name of the ship. It might have been the Osborne or something like that, where they saw it from, but they described a series of these like dark, like 4 to 6 foot, like spike-looking things moving along the surface, and then all of a sudden the front flippers and head and upper back of this gigantic, like 40-foot turtle appeared out of the water, flailing at the air and stuff. And everybody thinks that that was part of the same animal, and it wasn't. My research suggests that that was a pod of orcas, the fins, and they came across this enormous turtle, and then they decided to either have some fun or make a meal out of it. And they jumped it, and they grabbed it by the hindquarters. Obviously, you'd want to avoid the business end, unless you're, little daft. A turtle that size has a beak that could shear through just about anything, and they ripped it apart, probably grabbed it by the hindquarters and pulled and tore at it, etc. I think eventually it went under and disappeared. But in the book, I actually have a photo of an orca doing that to an extant sea turtle, where you'll see the exact same thing, where it pulls it down, and the front of the turtle is flailing out of the water, and that matches exactly the drawings of the witnesses from this yacht that saw this sighting. So that's got to be what it was. Bunch of big killer whales out there, big pod. They said, "Ooh, let's have some fun here, guys." Orcas can be a little unpleasant and playful and malicious, and lots of other things. So, a turtle that size would have a hard time.
Yeah, and you have the 1850 sea serpent and humpback whale battle, and we get almost the same type of situation from like 1820, that the captain documented an albino whale that Herman Melville turned into one of the greatest American novels, Moby Dick. But it really seems like a lot of these the captain's logs are just really giving us a wealth of information from that time period.
Yeah. Should I answer that person's question that I see on the screen?
Yeah, if you want to. I was just getting ready to ask it for you.
Yeah, I was about to read it out. I was going to ask you.
Go for it.
Miss Sampson wants to know: do you believe in Loch Ness monster exists?
I think there's been a lot of historical sightings. I don't believe that all of them are this, but I believe that a large number of them are sightings of Wells catfish. And the reason for that is that there are several classical sightings of the Loch Ness monster involve a description of a creature on the shore in the mud that sounds exactly like a catfish. It was the size of a man, flailing around, squirming back in the water. I've seen catfish come into the shallows to hunt. Wells catfish will spring out of the water to take pigeons. I'm sure we've all seen the videos of that. So a Wells catfish
can
can
see that.
Yeah, and they get big. I mean, they can be 5 yards long, some of them. They're very serpentine looking in terms of their shape, etc. And people have stocked them all over Europe. So even though the waters of Loch Ness are too cold for them to spawn, that doesn't mean that there can't be some very large old catfish still in there, cruising around, feeding on other fish, etc. And they're very hard to find because they usually come out at night. During the day, like when they do those sonar scans and stuff like that, a lot of wells will hole up under fallen trees, timber, stuff like that. They just sit there, sometimes clusters of them. So that in and of itself is suggestive of some of the sightings there. And when they spawn, you're going to have one female followed by multiple males, which could even explain multiple humps. So I don't think that answers all the questions about what's being seen, but I think some sightings are enormous Wells catfish. So.
And then I'm going to apologize. I don't want to mispronounce it. It's either Aliona or Aliona. She's question. Recently saw a post about the whales breaching themselves in big numbers. Do you think this was them running from an immense predator down there, or do you think there was something a la DARPA? Because I know that's been the big rumors that DARPA experiments, are causing, causing dolphins, whales, to end up beaching themselves due to their effects from these weapons.
You have prehistoric examples of that, so it wouldn't be DARPA.
Yeah. So,
well, to answer Aliona's question, and it's funny because when Cronus Rising first came out, I had shared a video on one of my fan pages, which showed hundreds and hundreds of dolphins, all porpoising, as that's what it's called, at the same time. Okay, and I suggested that there was a predator responsible, and some ninny was like, "Oh, that's ridiculous. They just do that because they're enjoying themselves, and it's standard behavior." But most recently, we've had videos of them doing that, and then killer whales have surfaced beside them and behind them. So the odds are they're doing this just like zebra do. They try and merge their colors, etc., and avoid being targeted. They want to confuse a predator. Even if it has sonar, it's hard to focus and zero a single target when hundreds of them are doing the same type of movements like that. See? So yes, I believe that quite often when we see that, there could be something that when orca comes to the surface, so we know it's a killer whale, but it could be something that doesn't need the surface or can stay under a lot longer that is following under them, and they're doing that to try and reduce the chances of being picked off.
That makes sense.
Okay, so yeah, so that's
gazelles do that, and lions go after them and stuff too. So that springboks and all that.
Yep, jump into the water just to be taken by a crocodile.
That's so is that the lesser of evils? I don't know.
It's always like this way. You don't want to laugh, but actually, in a way, it's that morbid part of you that laughs when you see the poor people that they've rehabbed some bird or something like that, and they go to release it, and then the hawk swoops down and just snatches it out of the air, then flies away, and you're just like, Mother Nature is a cruel mistress sometimes. I mean, it's just, my God. It's like, what do you do? It's like, I guess you give yourself some credit for trying, but man.
Yeah, definitely.
So one of the ones, like, we teased it a little bit, about too is, and you mentioned it to me, you have a story possibly about something that's, a well-known cryptid that was out for a swim.
It's funny because at the time I had no idea what I saw. I mean, this was almost 30 years ago, and I wasn't familiar with Sasquatch or anything else like that. But I'll try and do the Cliffs Notes version of this. So my family, we used to have a house on the lake, Candlewood Lake, up in Connecticut, Danbury. For many years, my grandfather actually had built the house. And so I would go up there for huge portions of the summer, take the boat out, fish the lake, so forth and so on. And like I said, it was close to 30 years ago. I went up with two of my brothers there, and we decided to get up early in the morning and go fish a lake called Squance Pond. And Squance Pond is a state park. It's maybe a 2-mile long, fairly wide lake, and it's actually part of Candlewood Lake proper. Candlewood's big. It's got like 50 miles of coastline. And so this is really part of Candlewood, but the Corps of Engineers, they built a roadway between the two parts of the thing, a causeway, and they piled up tons of like stones and gravel or whatever to form like a little 1 or 2 lane road that people can drive along through there on their way to one town to the other. In order to keep the lakes together, though, they installed, I don't know what you would call it, but it's like there's a big steel and concrete, like a tube, I guess you'd say, like a big giant sewer drain that connects the two lakes under the causeway. So if you swam under, you could go from one lake to the other. Okay. And because of this, there's a lot of crayfish in these stones and stuff. So a lot of times you'll get some bass, like smallmouth bass and largemouth bass, that'll come around at certain times of day near the causeway. So we decided to go there and in the morning and fish it. We went there very early. I mean, we got there, it was pitch black out, and by the time we got there, it was the crack of dawn. And we actually weren't sure we were going to go because it had rained all night. I mean, it was really a crappy night, but it cleared up in the morning, except that everything was gray and hazy, and the whole sky was gray with clouds and such. But at least there was no wind. So we figured, okay, we'll give it a shot. So we got to the lake, and when you're there, you have to kind of park at a nearby parking lot and then hike in a little bit, and then you're kind of stuck standing or sitting on these rocks on this slope like this. It's fairly steep. It's not very comfortable, but anyway, so we were out there fishing, and we brought out some live shiners with bobbers, and we were catching nothing. I mean, it was a bad decision because the water was so stained. There was like coffee from all the runoff and such. The odds of getting a fish, you'd have to hit him right on the head practically to get a strike. So we fished, I don't know for how long, half an hour or an hour, whatever it was. And then Tweedledee and Tweedledum, my brothers, I'm talking about you guys if you're watching, but anyway, they decided, they wanted to go up, and they were going to cross the little road, and they go on the other side of the causeway and fish the Candlewood side. See, because it's like that, okay? And I figured, well, go ahead, I'll stay here. I figured, you guys are going to be going. As soon as they're going, I'm going to catch this huge fish, and they're going to look stupid. Brother-sibling rivalry, whatever, okay? So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting, and there's nothing, and there's nothing, there's nothing. And I hear this splashing sound, and I look, and I see something, I don't know, maybe 100 or more feet out. It comes up to the surface, and then it goes under again. And then like 30 seconds later, it comes up again, and it goes under again. It's a little closer this time. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, well, this is some sort of animal, and it looked fairly large. I figured this is a fish. This is a big fish. This could be my baby here. And as it got a bit closer, I started realizing that it was hairy. It had like reddish brown hair covering it. So if my gut reaction was, okay, it's a muskrat. Nah, it's too big. It's a beaver. Too big for a beaver. And then as it got a little closer, I started seeing it. The part that kept coming up was a head, and it was dome shaped, like the size of a basketball or something like that, and covered with wet fur. And so I'm looking, I'm like, what is that? I'm like, and then as I was a little higher up, I looked, I could see like it was kind of, when it would come up under the surface, it was stretched out a bit. And I was like, that's not a deer. And then I started trying to convince myself that it was an Irish setter, because it was about 5 feet long, what I was seeing, and that makes sense. The size, somebody's got a big Irish setter and it's out swimming in the lake, which made no sense, to be honest, because the head portion that I was seeing was the kind of dome shaped. It did not look like a dog's head. It wasn't a deer's head or anything like that. And it was keeping parts of its head, like its face, submerged. So I'm like, what the, I'm like, what am I looking at here? You're just like staring at it, and it would get a little closer and get a little closer each time. It would go under, and it would come up again. And I think with all the rocks, it was eating crayfish. They would dive down, move some rocks, grab a crayfish or two, eat them, come back up for air, go back down, etc., which makes sense. And eventually I started seeing what looked like legs behind it, and it was using these to swim, but it didn't swim like a person. There was no, flutter kick. It was like the legs moved together, like this, like if you were wearing a mermaid costume or something like that. So if this was a Bigfoot, maybe they swim like keeping their legs together like a cetacean or something like that. I don't know. But so I'm watching this thing and I'm fascinated. And I wasn't afraid, even though it was working its way gradually closer and closer to me, So I thought, I got to get a better look at this thing. So I start going up, backing up the hill a little bit. I want to get a higher vantage point to look down at it. And at this point, I think it was about, when this happened, it might have been 50 feet away. It's a guess. It's a long time ago. But as I did that, I dislodged some of the rocks, and it must have become much more aware of me, let's say, and it submerged suddenly when that happened. And as it submerged, part of it broke the surface I hadn't seen before, and I distinctly saw a shoulder, an upper arm, an elbow, a forearm, like this. So that part, all this came up out of the water like that, and then it went under. And it was covered with fairly long hair, which was obviously streaming water. And it went under, and I'm like, well, that didn't look right. You're like, what the heck am I looking at? And unless somebody has an orangutan that lives on the lake and they let their orangutan out and it goes out swimming and eating crayfish and stuff like that, and I don't think orangutans are very good swimmers, okay, I had no idea what it was. So at this point, it accelerated once it went under because it was aware of me, and there was nobody on the lake. It was like glass. Like fog and glass and whatever. And it went under, and it started heading for that big pipe that separates the two lakes. And I couldn't see it, but I could see the disturbance, like in the dark water as it went through. So I run up, and I almost got clipped by a car, and I ran across the road and went down the other side. I was very excited. And I grabbed my two brothers. I'm like, look. I said, there's a hairy red thing. I said, and it swam through the pipe. It's going to come through right now. Watch. They're standing there like, I'm like, it has arms. I'm telling you, it has arms like this. And this thing must have been faster than me, because by the time I went up the thing, crossed the road, came down the other side, nothing happened. I didn't see anything. And then a few seconds later, they were all about 50 or 75 feet that way on the embankment there. There was all these lily pads, like ideal bass fishing territory. Mm-hmm. Like lining the shoreline, and there was something in the lily pads. There was crashing and thrashing moving through the lily pads, and it could have just been a big fish, or something feeding on frogs or whatever. But I think that was it. I think it was in there at that point, concealing itself, whatever it was, and then we didn't see it. But it's a shame, because I was like, come on guys, let's cast for it. $50 for whoever snags the hairy red thing.
I want to know what would have happened if he had caught it. Just all of a sudden you see Max
with a crankbait.
Yeah, he's going to be sitting here skipping across the water.
It would have been like
trying to.
Yeah. Oh, I just scared the heck out of one of the cats doing that. Sorry, Mace. But the Fluff Man is upset now. He thought that was some sort of, I don't know what, like a giant bee or hawk or I don't know what. But
it's Dad doing the cat scare thing. And
yeah, he was on the windowsill there, watching creatures he'd love to eat in the dark. But yeah, so I don't know. And then recently when I was researching the book, this was, there is a precedent for this type of thing. I looked up that lake and sightings and stuff, and I found something from 1918.
We lost Chris. I don't know.
The hairy red thing got him.
Yeah.
The red thing got him, the hairy thing. But and there was a newspaper report from 1918 where it said two fishermen on that lake reported seeing a hairy wild child, as they called it, playing in the water. And I asked, Shannon LeGros from Into the Fray told me that's what they used to call creatures like that when they would cite them, because the term Bigfoot, Sasquatch wouldn't be coined for another 40 or more years or something. So, it said in the newspaper, it said hairy wild child spotted, fishermen spot hairy wild child. What happened? Did we lose everybody? Oh.
Nope, you're there.
Hold on, I got to let Mace out.
You're good.
So
yeah,
sorry.
no.
Just be 2 seconds.
random thing, God, wasn't that something though? All of a sudden, I'm just sitting there watching it. And it looks like Chris just got, taken out by. All this camera just fell. I'm like, what happened?
My camera just took a.
Oh, for anybody that's listening that can't see, all of a sudden we're just sitting there talking with Max. He's recanting the story, and then it looks like somebody took a baseball bat to Chris's setup. It just went flying, and you just see everything just start rolling around. But anyway, yeah. So Max is back. He has chased a cat. One of the Siberian tigers is loose.
The more calm cat wanted to be let out because I lock my doors so that the village idiot, the destroyer of worlds, can't come in here and destroy my world. You can't imagine.
Yeah, it's his own version of Siegfried and Roy. He's got his 2 Siberian tigers. He goes out when one's calm, the other one's chaos.
Yeah, that's him right there. That's Olaf. See on the mug. So, and no, that's not my mug either. I stole it from somebody in the house, but whatever.
Ava,
did you use my mug? No, I think that's her mother's actually.
Ah, yeah. So there you go. No,
did you drink out of my mug? No, but I saw you on video.
I'm just based off of your writing style. And the way to do it is, I'm really looking forward to once this book actually gets here tomorrow, so I can start going through it. But just from the excerpts I've seen, from even some reviews I've already seen, people have absolutely loved this book, which is a huge compliment, especially for something that's just coming out, and you're already getting people that are just like fantastic work.
It's very informative.
Yeah.
And
it's not. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you have a lot of photos, and like the whale that has the
bite.
Yeah, the bite mark out, towards the tail, and then you have a drawing of where a chunk was taken out of another whale's tail. It gives you the photos you include gives the reader a idea of the enormous size of some of these
predators.
Yeah, predators.
Well, I'll say this: by the time I finished all the research and all the people I spoke to and all the evidence I collected, I will say that I'm 100% convinced that the great white shark, Carcharodon carcharias, does, at least at times, exceed 25 feet in length. I have a guy who measured bite marks, one of which was like 38 inches high. That's a gigantic white shark, again, 27 inches across. So
Lord.
using the most conservative formulas out there, because I wanted to be as conservative as possible, it still came to like 25.6 feet or something like that for that one. And this is feeding on a dead whale, so it's not an old bite that stretched or anything like that. This is fresh, But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you did just sound like Matt Hooper.
Hooper drives the boat, Chief. Let Hooper take a turn.
Yeah, it was the way you pronounced, the Latin term for the great white shark.
Yeah. Yeah, he was sleeping with Brody's wife in the book, I understand. But
I was thinking a 25-foot great white, dude. That's gonna swallow me in one bite. Just
probably be some chewing involved, unfortunately. But yeah,
but
He's got to around, Craig.
I was really, I got some incredible imagery from a lot of great people. Simon Pierce, he let me use photos he took of a 40-foot whale shark that had a 4-foot chunk taken out of it, which that is in the book. And then Kurt Jenner from the Center for Whale Research, he gave me access to those photos of that 69-foot pygmy blue whale that he was mentioning that has an enormous scar on its peduncle. So I was able to really get in there, and I believe that we have firm evidence that there is some sort of macro predatory shark out there that's at or around 40 feet in length. Don't know if it's a great white or maybe Ototus chubutensis, which is a relative of the extinct megalodon shark, but it could be a mutated white shark that just grows to freakish proportions once in a while, or it could be some holdover from the Miocene. Don't know.
Yeah, Ron asked, how are these creatures in freshwater lakes?
Well, the hairy red thing was a pretty good swimmer, I can tell you that much. Um, I'm not sure if there's a lot of freshwater stuff that I covered in there. A lot of it is saltwater, marine stuff, etc. I did cover an incident where there's a lake whose location I will not get into, but that has evidently somebody released some tropical fish in this lake that they shouldn't have. Things that are from other countries that get much bigger than their. And
Yep.
there is a lake that I fished at where I believe they have snakehead in there that are like impossibly big. I mean, the bite. I had a shad. And there's a photo of it in there, big shad, and a giant tooth bite taken out of it. That is exactly that of a really large snakehead. And there was an incident with my dad and I in there, which I detailed in the book. And I believe there's also a giant freshwater stingray in that lake, unless it's dead already or old age. But we saw something that strongly suggests that those are from the same place. So if you have giant snakehead in your aquarium, then it doesn't go as a big of a stretch if somebody also had a baby freshwater stingray in there, and these things started getting bigger. They got bored with them, and they said, "Oh, I'll just dump them in this local lake." And then next thing you know, they get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they become like the apex predator of their tiny little ecosystem, let's say. And that's how a lot of lake monster things are, stories are born. But there's some stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, I could see it, because I mean, salmon, they'll even do saltwater to freshwater. I mean, so nature can adapt to living in both water environments. Mm-hmm. So it wouldn't be the least bit surprised, that after time, I mean, it's like some of these would survive. They said being tossed out there because, like I said, you're going to a lake out in the middle of the mountains. You're not expecting to, catch a snakehead. Mm-hmm. That's going to be something that's going to freak you out when you see, and all of a sudden here's these massive fangs sticking out of this thing. You're like, what the hell is this?
Well, snakeheads are quite dangerous to other fish because they're capable of taking down fish as big as them and just biting them in half. Their teeth are like a bear trap, and when they bite down, they just take out giant chunks and stuff. And
God,
it's hard for other predators to compete with them. The only freshwater fish I think we have that would be, very adult muskellunge, pike, maybe that type of thing. And even then, they're very quick, very aggressive. So don't belong here.
There was actually an article that came out a couple months ago that I think our FWC didn't care how you killed them. If you found one, kill it.
Yeah, they have they're really trying to cull them to get them under control. There's worries that they're going to get into the Great Lakes and everything else. It's a big problem. These fish are they're survivors. The northern snakehead can survive cold water, much colder than the giant snakehead, but there's nothing to stop them once they really start. Once they get a foothold, let's say. So, Florida, what's going on down there. Burmese pythons, as many of them as there are people at this point, probably.
Oh my God!
They found some anacondas down there recently. Nile crocs.
Iguanas just walk along South Beach, just because they were brought here and they just walk along there.
Oh, I was in Boca Grande the last time I went down there to fish, Florida, and my wife and I, we park in this sandy parking lot, and we're getting out of the vehicle, the rental. There's a little dock there where our charter's waiting, and there's a restaurant, a lot of sand, white sand, beautiful. And there's all these lizards, like night animals, all over the place. And all of a sudden, this huge monitor lizard, it was almost as long as me, but thick. It just comes out of between two cars, and it just kind of like saunters by, wah, 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 and then it goes into the shrubs. And I'm staring at it, and I'm looking at her, I'm like, did you just see that? She's like, yeah, it's like, what is this, Jurassic Park? I mean, these things are everywhere, That's not a native species, whatever it was, water monitor or Nile monitor, I don't know what it was, but it was not North American, if you know what I'm saying. And I wasn't about to grab it. I need my fingers I need these for...
Was that like your former guide, when he was out there, with the grouper?
Oh gosh, Bucky, when I had a giant grouper next to the boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the biggest bony fish I think I've ever seen in my life. My God. Imagine a fish big enough to eat a grown man. I mean, that's how big it was.
Yeah, Yeah, once the last time you were on, you told that story about some of these groupers. Like, you could be swimming around there, you could just come up and swallow you. You've emotionally and mentally scarred me from there. Because every now and then when I go to the pier, I'm thinking, is this the moment? Is this the moment that Max's grouper just comes out of nowhere?
I told you they have teeth, first off, which people don't
Yeah.
realize. It's not like a bass. If you lip a grouper, you're going to be minus a thumb. Okay, but my one of my guides, he had on his forearm here, he had a scar that went from here to here and on the other side like that. Looked like Pac-Man had grabbed him. And he's like, see that? He goes, yeah, 300 pounds. They're taking the hook out, crunched down on me, bit the muscles right off the bone. I was like, whoa. And he's like, yep, it was like 140 stitches, and that's just on the outside. And then I was like, what did you do? He goes, well, I canceled the charter. I'm like, yeah. He goes, and then I duct taped it together because duct tape, fixes everything. He's like, I'm like, my God, he's like pouring blood. He goes back to the dock. His wife meets him to take him to the ER. He shows her, he cuts off the tape, and she fainted. Right there on the dock. Boom. Just fainted, fell, because it was like all raw meat and just everything and shit stuff. But
how hardcore are you to cut that tape off? Oh my God.
Yeah. He's lucky.
Here, let me show you.
But and he was letting the fish go, but the fish they can be very aggressive. And I always tell people, if you see a big grouper coming toward you, I don't buy that. Oh, they're just such curious creatures. Curious my ass. Okay. That grouper comes up to you. Okay. He's looking at you like this. He's like, let's see.
Yep.
Yeah. Nah, not quite gonna fit. Lose a few pounds, come back and see me, But if they think they can get you in their mouth, they're gonna try. People have been attacked by groupers. You've seen videos, they eat sharks.
Yeah.
And they're in the book, by the way. So, because I had one incident where I lost something that ate a grouper I was fighting that I don't know what it was. So.
Yeah, it happens down here because somebody just lost state record pompano. Mm-hmm. The chunk that was left they said was 5 pounds. Mm-hmm. Was pompano, and a black tip had just come up right as he's pulling it in, just chomp, and just went away. And there's just this huge bite mark just right out of the fish, and it's just like,
yeah, that's true. You don't want to go swimming in some of those waters. Believe me, if there's sharks out there eating, like when they follow the tarpon, and when I say tarpon, here. So there's a tarpon right there, okay? So if you're like in water and there are bull sharks and hammerhead sharks that are eating those, and those are the size of a man, you don't want to be in the water when that's going on. I mean, what's to stop them from going, oh, look, a nice, slow, brightly colored tarpon wearing Nikes or something like that.
Yeah, there's a nice, juicy Craig tarpon right there. What happened to my leg? Yeah, no, I got to get you down here for fishing because I'm getting surf fishing this weekend for the first time, so I'm going to go try that. So
sweet.
Yeah, so that's going to be a lot of fun.
Is it bluefish?
Pompano and the whitings probably is going to be my luck, and then of course I'll probably snag a nice puffer.
Or
so I'll have
nothing. That would be.
Yeah, I'll have to figure out how to get that thing off of there while it's.
Just to show you, since you mentioned surf fishing and stuff, and the first time I ever went surf fishing has got to be. I was in my mid to late 20s, I think, or something. But and this is to show you I'm not embarrassed to humiliate myself live on the air. So I was fishing. It was in like Brooklyn, or something. They have like a beach area out there. I forget the neighborhood, but I had a bomber lure. I don't know if you know what a bomber is. Mm-hmm. It's a fairly good sized lure. You can use it for salt water and stuff. I think it was all black or black up top and clear. And I was, in water up to, let's say, my waist. I was winging it out there and, working it back in, walking the dog, doing all that stuff. And after about 15 or 20 casts, I see something following the bomber, like maybe 10 feet behind it. And it comes up to the surface, and then I see the fin. And it's a shark. Okay. And it's like working its way towards me, and I'm retrieving as I continue to retrieve the lure. I'm like, wait a minute, the lure's coming toward me. That means the shark is coming toward me. Why am I still reeling? So I stop reeling, and right then, crabs have been nibbling on my ankles and toes like all day out there. Okay. Right then, the shark goes under. And then 5 seconds later, a crab grabs my ankle like that. I, of course, decide it's the shark, scream like a frightened schoolgirl, throw my fishing rod into the water, and turn and run on water back out of the...
And you got a crab on your leg, like...
No, it was a good-sized crab. It was a respectable crab. And my then girlfriend, she's like, what's the matter? What happened? I'm like, nothing. Could you go get my fishing rod? Yeah, it's right there. It was ruined. There was sand in the gears and all this stuff. It was horrible.
Got a good question here. Can you tell us something that isn't in the book? Something about a new monster that's been discovered? Gosh, maybe a teaser for the sequel?
For Monsters and Marine Mysteries? I think this, for cryptid-wise, this is probably a one-off for me, to be honest. I've got a Cronus Rising book that I'm working on, which will probably be out by the end of the year. And I'm also doing a horror thriller, which is unrelated, but technically, although, it could be construed to be in the same universe as the Cronus Rising universe, let's say. But I'm a busy boy. I tell people I'm busier than it's going to sound inappropriate, but than a one-breasted woman with quintuplets. Okay? Yep. I've got a lot on my plate.
Oh, man.
That's an original quote. I'm busier than a one-breasted woman with quintuplets. But
so no new monsters discovered, huh? Just that you know of.
No, I mean, I was going to make a mother-in-law joke, but I'm going to pass on it because I've already said too much. That would be an old monster anyway, very old. Yeah. But I mean, not that I'm aware of. I mean, there's been some Nessie sightings recently that have been in the news and whatnot. But there is a lot of exciting fossil stuff going on, so they're always discovering new fossils and all that. Like I told you, I'm sitting on one hell of a fossil myself, so it's going to be very exciting when the reveal comes for this bad boy.
Yep. So, there. When do you think? When are you looking at possible reveal for that again?
For gosh, I'm hoping by the end of the year. That's the plan. So we're putting together a nice presentation on it. I don't know if there's going to be a formal paper or not, but it's going to be very compelling. People are going to be like, "What?" Like, exaggerating. No, I'm not. Okay, it is what it is. Suck it up. You don't like it? Too good.
But you have proof.
Yes,
it's in the fossil record.
There you go. That's the thing. So people, like there are always doubters out there like, oh, Mosasaurus never got larger than 13 meters and stuff like that. Well, how do we know that? Were you back there 65, 70, 80 million years ago? Did you measure all of them? No. And any large apex predator, the bigger ones, their territory is automatically going to be further offshore. So the areas that we have that are now dry land that used to be shallow seas would not be occupied by the biggest, most dominant males, females, whatever, of any given species. I mean, think about it. When you see a sperm whale get beached, how big are they usually? 30, 40, sometimes 50 feet? I've checked the records. Yet Soviet whaling records prove they once reached 85 feet.
Jeez.
And we've never seen one that big beach itself. Ever. See? Animal that size has got the whole ocean it's in charge of. It can go where it wants, and it's going to enjoy its territory. So there's no need for them to come into the shallows. Same thing applied to mosasaurs, pliosaurs, who knows what.
Was it a sperm whale? Is that the one that they just had a video of the orcas taking it down?
As a blue whale.
Blue whale,
yeah.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't a huge blue whale. I think it was only like 55, 60 feet long, something like that.
I think. Still, that was
a subadult.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just like like sea wolves, a pack of sea wolves. I mean, it floated right there, and you just see them just milling around this thing. And it's like, God, that's incredible.
It's horrible. And I mean, a blue whale is not a dumb animal, but orcas have huge brains. They're highly intelligent. They're pack hunters. They're organized. They use sonars. They communicate. There's no escaping them, honestly. I mean, and a blue whale could swim at 30 miles an hour, but it couldn't get away.
Yeah, and
they're faster.
That's just crazy how fast those things are. No, there was something else that I was going to bring up to you. It's just
where people can get the book.
Yeah, well, no, it's what happened to your third beard? He's out sick. So we have one who didn't shave and one who mysteriously went from having about a 5 foot long beard to suddenly nothing in a matter of about 30 seconds. See, and look at that the magic of television is back.
Listen, I got this just for you guys. Okay?
I know, and I'm
you guys
honored.
I'm
honored.
Does that count as
There we go.
a Rona mask too?
What?
But I think it does. I mean, pretty much you can wear pretty much whatever you want, and I think it counts as a mask.
That's a good Rona mask.
I am rocking this thing, man.
That's right.
Ow. Pretty hot, itchy. I don't know how you guys do it. I remember I had a goatee, and I would always be storing crumbs of food in my beard for later, and stuff. Didn't go over. Didn't go over well.
Carolyn said that you resembled Howard Stern right there when you did that part.
Wait a minute.
It takes some time because I won't lie. There are some times where all of a sudden you look like you're just like, it's like it itches. But the trick is just, in the shower, there's beard soap. You just keep it clean. You put beard oil. You keep it nice, and it's just after a while.
That's you're reminding me of that commercial. What's it with that insurance one where the guy's like, "Sorry about my beard and everything,and he has nothing." And,
yeah,
you know the one I'm talking about. And they're like,
Jamie.
What?
Yeah, Jamie. Like, what are you talking about? He's just, it's just not. I think it's like one hair. It's barely even any stubble.
Do you know what a beard is?
Yep. Oh my God.
Coconut oil and
it's it is. It's one of those. Just you do it after a while. You get used to it. I mean, that's a big thing. It's just, and now once your significant other gets used to it too, like Becky, she won't let me shave it.
Yeah,
I even looked.
How much longer are we on for?
We're on for here maybe about another 7-8 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to be right back.
All right, we will talk amongst ourselves. You didn't give us a topic, but we can handle it.
Yeah, we can handle it.
All right. So everybody, but yeah, while he's there, we'll talk about it again. But you can go to chronosrising.com. And you'll get more information on Max, everything about this new book. Amazon.com. Go pick this up. Monsters and Marine Mysteries. It's his latest book. Mark has got it right there. Fantastic book. Like I said, just from a little bit, like you, Mark. I mean, what would you say to everybody right now? Is just your overall, from what you've been able to read of it so far. What would you say?
Oh, it's very informative. The photos,
nice.
That one. Okay, do you see? Gosh, this is terrible.
No,
you can see the bite mark. The photos that Max publishes in the book illustrate the points about some of these
thank God.
huge sizes. And now that Max is back, you got the Galapagos shark. We can talk about another really interesting case study that there's another photo of it. But
to me, that's the firmest evidence so far of a shark exceeding 25 feet.
Yeah, and I was just letting the listener and viewers know you have samples from all around the a globe of.
Yeah, I collected a ton of evidence. I didn't want to slack or anything like that. If a story strikes me as far-fetched, but I'm giving somebody the benefit of the doubt, I say it. If it strikes me as something that I have an opinion that I think it could be this or that or something like that, then I put that in there also. But I mean, it's
a fair evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, for example, in the part where I'm talking about mega squid, I'm a firm believer, based on anecdotal sightings that go back to the 1800s, that there are squid out there large enough to take whales, and they do. Okay, and this isn't just an incident of a sperm whale encountering a squid and being seen fighting on the surface. There's one where a humpback was attacked by a gigantic squid, which they thought was a sea serpent, wrapped around it, and took it, dragged it under. Okay, humpbacks don't hunt squid, obviously, so this was a premeditated, planned predator-prey relationship. Okay, but the attack on the USS Stein, which took place, I think, in 1978, maybe, I could be guessing the date wrong, but you're talking about a destroyer over 400 feet long out of San Diego that gets all of a sudden the ship shudders and comes almost to a stop, and then the sonar isn't working anymore. They can't get it to work. They have to go back in to the dock, and when they examine it, the sonar dome, which is like 26 feet across, and the picture of it is in the book, by the way, it has all these slash marks on it which contain claws from some unknown species of squid, and these claws are 5 times bigger than any known specimen of squid.
Jeez.
So, and it's crazy, but this is actual physical evidence there. I mean, these claws did not, magically get created out of thin air or anything like that. I believe that the squid was swimming along, and as the ship passed over it, the ship happens to be emitting active sonar, which is in the same range as a sperm whale does when it's hunting. The squid figured it was about to be attacked. It saw the dome and figured that was the head of the whale. That's where the sonar was coming from. It lashed at it, fastened itself onto it, etc. It was big enough and strong enough to shutter the whole ship. And then it realized, okay, this is not a whale, and it broke off and left evidence behind.
It doesn't taste so good.
Yeah. That no foul rubber coating leaves a bad taste in your beak. So.
Yeah, man, that was, and you can see, like I said, how do you describe that other than a sea monster just attacked us?
Mm-hmm. It's in Wikipedia. The only naval ship known to be documented to have been attacked by a sea monster. So, and a squid that size got to be 150, 175 feet long, and that's without the feeding tentacles that shoot out. By the way,
and those are the longer ones, correct?
Yeah, some have them, some don't. But when they do, like Architeuthis and stuff, they have these 2 tentacles that they kind of sandwich together like Velcro, and then they shoot them out at something. They open up like that. They have hook clubs on the end, latch onto it, pull it in. 8 arms grab, immobilize, and then the beak starts going to work. So
nice. And then, Harlan have you ever encountered, anything that would remotely be considered mermaid? I don't know if the term is mermaidian.
Closest you're going to get is what I just had on a minute ago.
There you go.
I've never seen a mermaid or anything like that. My
Are you a believer?
Has at the water parks has done the mermaid classes with the tail and all, but no, I've got photos and videos. She's adorable.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know if I remember seeing that mermaid documentary, mockumentary, whatever you want to call it. And I was very angry because they had me convinced at first based on these cave drawings and stuff like that. I was telling my wife, like, look at this. And, then I'm like, when I saw the animation, I was like, wait a minute, like on the cell phone, I was like, this looks pretty fake. And they started reading the fine print at the very end. It's like, no.
Yeah. The CGI'd one that comes up to the in the water to the glass.
Yeah, like at the net. It's like on the shore. Yeah, it was awful.
I know it's one of those, you see it and you're like, because I was the same way. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. Then you see it and you're like, this isn't quite working out.
Mm-hmm.
It's
I was angry. I really was. So.
No, but everybody, I said, go to chronosrising.com. You're going to get all the information that you want on this. I mean, you'll see his complete bio everywhere that he's gone to school to learn, that he has made himself self-taught, where he knows how to match keys with the best of them. Amazon.com, go check that book, Monsters and Marine Mysteries, brand new book. Mark highly recommends it. I can't wait to get my hands on it. So as soon as I get here tomorrow, I'm going to be tearing into that thing too. So it's just, I wish I had it here prior, but it's, I can't thank you enough for coming in at short notice.
It was my pleasure. I enjoy being. Listen, I must enjoy it because I bought a beard to wear for your show.
To come on, yeah.
And that thing is itchy.
Oh, I bet. No.
And it pulls your ears. It's got the elastic. It's like, I feel like a Vulcan after a while. Like my ears are pointed. Anyway, next time I'm going to wear the whole thing. The Hagrid. I look like, I don't know, like some
that'll be awesome.
60s rocker,
come in looking partly homeless.
I bought a whoopee cushion for a show. Well, I'll save that.
For the same show.
Whoopee cushion.
Yeah,
Same
it's
one.
like it's yeah. You have to spend a little bit to make for props to make the show work.
That's right.
You see this? This is what often greets phone solicitors when they call me. I'm sitting in my office right here, and I get 2, 3, 4 of them a day. Okay, this is a remote control fart machine, and you believe me. And then you take this thing and you just put, I put them on speaker. They're like, I'm like, hello, hi, we're calling about your car's extended warranty. And I just go, and then and I put it next to the phone. And for some reason, the frequency on speaker keeps it going. So it's a nonstop barrage of flatulence. And they keep trying to excuse me, after all, they get so frustrated and angry, they hang up. Yeah, and one time, awesome. Oh my God, I took it into the bathroom with me. And the woman she was so annoying, trying to sell me some sort of insurance plan or something like that. And she was apparently in a boiler room, when you know what I mean, where there's like 150 people making calls. So I go into the powder room and I sit on the toilet. No, the lid was down, okay? And I answer, I'm talking to her, I'm like, what? And she's like, so I want to talk to you about, I'm like, excuse me, I'm like, hold on, wait, and I keep doing it over and over again. And she's like getting so fat. And then you hear her on speaker go, will you listen to this beep like that? And you hear like 100 guys all laughing in the background at the same time. And then, she hung up on me. So I wish I had that recorded. It was classic.
Next time you have to, please record that.
So the level of maturity in authors has just taken a huge nosedive on this show. But you work from home, you're sitting around, you're surrounded by fossils, you get bored, somebody calls to bother you,
Gotta let the cat, you gotta figure out some way to let the cats have them.
Well, it's one of the side effects of the Rona, just blame it on Fauci.
There you go. I'm going crazy.
The weatherman.
Awesome. All right, well, Max, thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
It is always a pleasure.
Yeah, we definitely. Everybody, please go get this book. Support him. He has been an amazing friend of the show. He's one of the original guests we had. So it's I said monsters and marine mysteries.
Yeah, Max fixed this up too.
Yeah, this is, just while you were off, having to visit the powder room real quick. He sat there. He was showing some of the pictures, and they look fantastic. So everybody, go there. Amazon.com.
Dying, I had to go. I'm sorry.
Oh, no,
I had to shake hands with the champ. I mean, I've been drinking like 2 gallons of water here.
Well, that's good. It's important to be hydrated. I mean,
otherwise, I would have been sitting there going, "Yeah, right. Okay, how many minutes we got left? Yeah."
Well, it makes sense now. When I was how much longer is the show?
Yeah, I am not lasting 7 or 8 more minutes.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen.
So, all right, sir. Well, hey, have a great night. We will talk to you later. And like I said, everybody, please go Amazon.com, pick up that book. Go visit them at chronosrising.com. Max Hawthorne. Have a great night, sir.
Thank you.
And then, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. With Austin being out sick today, so we appreciate that help.
I enjoy working with Max. He's a great guy, and we have another great show in 10 minutes.
Yep. And then I said, so everybody, like I said, stick around. We will be back for the next one. Everybody, thank you. This episode was brought to you by Nanny Cakes. Nanny Cakes 407. I'm new at this producing thing. So like I said, I don't have this stuff just real handy here. Come on, where's it at? 407-923-2898. Look at that. Oh, see, I figured it out. There we go. We are also rebroadcast every Thursday night by J&J Beard Company. Go to the Zeno app, download the Zeno app, go to Patriot Radio. They put us on there every Thursday night starting at 8 p.m. Eastern time. There it is right there. Everybody go to patreon.com/3beards podcast. Go to 3beardspodcast.com. Check us out on all the social media we have. And everybody, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Everyone, Have a great night, and we will see you later on. Good night.